So in 1565, we see another important marriage take place. Now, Queen Elizabeth, quite rightly, disliked and feared Mary, Queen of Scots, one of the most famous monarchs to ever live, the legend Mary. She would marry, in that year, her cousin, Henry Stuart. This would further strengthen the line between the Stuarts and the Tudors and the Stuart right to the throne, further intimidating and scaring the Tudors who were waiting for a conclusion to this problem. Will their heirs take over, or will Scotland eventually take over the throne? Now, the relationship between Mary and Henry was supposed to be incredibly rocky. At first, stories tell us that they got on very well, but we're also told that he stabbed one of her friends to death in front of her, which would later cause serious issues. But before the marriage truly deteriorated, something important took place, something vital took place, and that was the birth of James VI of Scotland, and who would become James I of England. Now, when discussing Mary, Queen of Scots, quite often people try and paint her as truly evil. They paint her as the wrongdoer, the protagonist in the breakup of the relationship. But as I mentioned, an alleged story which is often hidden is that Henry had stabbed, or had one of her friends stabbed to death in front of her. Now, Henry became unwell and travelled to a place called Kirkhofield. But Mary refused to go with him, and many found this suspicious, especially with what was about to happen. Now, not long after Henry arrives, an explosion takes place in that building. And the story goes that his body, his dead body, was found hundreds of yards away, uncharred, unburnt, unafflicted by the explosion. And his symptoms of death seemed to be strangulation. Mary had fallen into the frame. Mary was believed to, if not be responsible, possibly know who was behind the plot. In 1567, another strange marriage takes place. A man named James Hepburn had been accused of conspiring the murder of Henry Stuart. Now, on this year, Mary, Queen of Scots, marries Hepburn. This causes major uproar. It causes uproar on the Catholic and the Protestant side, and he is being accused now of trying to usurp the throne, trying to step his way into the throne almost illegally. Now, he's put on trial for the murder, which it most likely was a murder, and is acquitted, but ends up going into exile. Eventually in exile, he dies in captivity of what's believed losing his mind. In the meantime, his wife Mary is left with extreme egg on her face and distrust from the Protestant regime and the Catholic regime, but is still technically a hero to many Catholics and Scots of the day who looked up to her or saw her as the opportunity, if you like, to take Britain under the throne of Scotland.